Okay, it's good to be back.
It's good to have you back, Reverend.
Yeah, thank you. So we'll see if we could get one more shir in before Yom Kippur. We're going to talk about now Rosh Hashana and Yom Kippur as a unit. So we're so used to observing it year in and year out. But if a person wanted to learn about these chagim from the Chumash, could easily miss them. Easily. Right, because interestingly enough, for reasons that we're going to explain tonight, in most parshas that deal with the Yom Tovim, it only talks about the Shalosh Regalim. Parshas Mishpatim, Parshas Kisisa, Parshas Re'eh, just to mention, there's probably a few more that I don't remember. You will see Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur only mentioned twice, because twice the Torah deals with all the Yom Tovim, and that's in Parshas Emor. It has all the halachas of each Yom Tov, and in Parshas Pinchas, because of those are the Korbanei Musaf of all the Yom Tovim. So halachas of all Yom Tovim, like you have to make a sukkah and sukkahs and your lulav, etc. So over there in Parshas Emor, we'll talk about Yom Zichron Trua and Yom Kippurim, and it'll be mentioned again in Parshas Pinchas in context of the korbanos, the korbanei musaf of each of the chagim are all mentioned together. But otherwise, in most parshas of the Torah, it only talks about Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot. Now, there's a very straightforward reason why, which has the whole depth of it of what makes these two different. That Pesach, Shavuos, and Sukkot are regalim. Shalosh regalim. There's a halach of aliyah l'regel. Right? When the Beis Mikdash Hayakayim is a mitzvah saseh to come up and celebrate by the Beis HaMikdash. And Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur are not regalim. So even if at Yom Kippur everyone wants it to be there because that's where all the action is, and omdim tzvufim u'mishtachavim revachim, everyone packed in like sardines to watch the avoda and see the whole thing happen, but there's no halacha that you have to. It's so it means that Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, already halachically what separates them from the other three is this din that there is no din of aliyah l'regel, and that we're going to research that more and see how that might give a clue to what sets them apart from the other Yom Tovim. So now we have to take a look as to exactly where Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur come out. They're sandwiched in between Shavuos and Sukkot. As a matter of fact, during Sukkot we still feel time of Yom Kippur, because we still there's still another Chasima on Hoshana Rabbah, and we know what Simchas Torah is all about. That the Goyim are there with us until the 7th day of Sukkot, then they all go home. It's just us alone with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So if Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur is between these two Chagim, it's what leads bridges between Shavuos and Sukkot. That must be the inyan of what's behind it. So now, to further at least realize the connection of going from Shavuos into Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. So on Shavuos, Matan Torah. Now Matan Torah was meant to be finalized by an event that did not come to fruition, and that was getting the luchas. Right, 40 days. Right, the day after Shavuos, Moshe Rabbeinu was invited up for 40 days and 40 nights. But when he came down, he saw Amisol the De'ego, he broke the luchas. Right? So we know, everyone, that what established the precedent for Yom Kippur was that's the day we got Luchas Shnias. And that's also the precedent for the inyan of Elul, because Rosh Chodesh is when Moshe Rabbeinu was invited back up for the final set of 40 days and 40 nights to be Makabel Luchas Shnias. So there is, the Luchas is somewhat of a common denominator. That we can understand the smichus between Shavuos and Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, but to understand it fully, we have to understand what luchas are all about. Like, what do you do with luchas? If you would have them, what would you do with them?
What would be the connection with Rosh Hashanah? That's the connection with Yom Kippur.
But the whole 40 days leading up, Elul and Rosh Hashanah, Moshe Rabbeinu went up on Rosh Chodesh, came down on Yom Kippur. But you happen to be right that there's a...
Rosh Hashanah has its own status.
Yes, it does. Yes, but even though it has its own status, it's also a part of a process. But as a matter of fact, the one who says, the Rambam says this, and both in the Yad and also in the Mar Nevuchim, that the shofar of Rosh Hashanah is to wake us up and in preparation for Yom Kippur. And he says, Kayadua bu Masenu, it's famous in our nation, Mirutzifus hayomim ha'elu, how these days are like one stretch. Aser Simei Tshuva. So that's and that's how we're dealing with it this evening. We're talking about the process. And we'll try to focus on what makes Rosh Hashanah something different from Yom Kippur also. But right now I'm talking about the process. So now the getting back to luchas, what function did the luchas serve? What do you do with luchas? Right? It's not a kosher sefer Torah. You can't use it for laning, right? What's their function? That's considered to be one of the major tragedies. That Yom Kippur came to supplement Shviras Haluchas. What do you do with them? What is their function?
It's a reminder that Hashem spoke to us at Har Sinai. It's a reminder that we see.
Yeah, but you never see it. It's kept inside the Aron. And the Aron itself, you see on odd occasions, but in the Kodesh Kodashim, there was a Sefer Torah on the outside of the Aron. The Luchos you never saw. The Luchos were always in the Aron. Right? They're inside, and there's a reason for this, and we're going to talk about that. Right? But so I think to get to one issue we have to discuss is what is the function of luchas, because that's what created the precedent of Yom Kippur, from that generation onwards. All right, so it's important to understand something about our Torah in general, for the purpose of this discussion. That the Rebbe Shalom gave us a Torah that's tamima, right, complete and lacks nothing. There's so many fail-safes and plan Bs and plan Cs, right? You know what, like reality itself, that there has to be adaptation, right, otherwise things wouldn't be able to continue. Right? There has to be adaptability. Well, I'm not getting into Darwinism or anything like that. It has to be able to, move and shift, and that all is rooted in the Torah. And this is true, because HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world with the Torah. And the original plan was for Adam to stay in Gan Eden, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that. Right? That didn't work out. Right? And then, so we had this in the Derech Hashem, that there was, originally destiny was supposed to be a 7-day thing. It's the whole 7-day thing. Right, the 6 days of creation. Adam Rishon had his work to do for those few hours that he was created on Erev Shabbos, which was also Rosh Hashanah, and we'll discuss that also. And he had to hang tight till Shabbos, and that would have ushered in Olam Haba. Right, that didn't work out, and like the Ramchal taught us, right, in section 2, chapter 4, I'm sure you remember that. Right, and of course in that Mahalach there have only been one nation, just the Jewish people. That we allude to that, say Mikam Choyso Goyach Baretz. All right, that didn't work out. So Plan B, that we're going to go the long way. It's going to be 1,000 years per day. That's why Shital Fishnin Have Alma. We're going to get back to that in a second. 6,000 years. It's supposed to be 6 days. It's supposed to be now. It's going to be 6,000 years. And then the 7th millennium is when connected the big cosmic Shabbos, that everything shuts down, like Mushbat, everything ceases. And then Sof El Shana, right, at the end of those 1,000 years, HaKadosh Baruch Hu Chozer Mechadash Olamo. Right? And now the same thing is true, right, for what would have been if Am Yisrael would have not done Chet HaEgel. Right? And interestingly enough, the Medrashim Parsha Shmini sets up parallels between Chet HaMrishon and Chet HaEgel. And we're going to discuss that. And this is HaKadosh Barov Rachamav, Barov Chasadav, that the Torah has fail-safe, has systems within systems, a lot of if-then statements. So if this doesn't work out, then there's this Mahalach, and if it doesn't work out, then there's this Mahalach, and it's all called the same Torah. It's all called the same Torah. Luchas Rishar and Luchas Shniyos, we will discuss the difference between them, but of course it's all the same Torah. Just, certain tracks go dormant and certain tracks go active, in response to however, the door. And it's, beside Elu Velu Divrei Elokim Chaim that we find by Beis Shammai Beis Hillel. They said things diametrically opposed, and the Baskals said they're both Divrei Elokim Chaim. The Torah that we have is it's a complex formula, and it's a complex for our benefit, that there's there's possibilities for every event. There's a possibility for every event. So the truth of the cause and effect is opposite. There are so many different events because there are so many possibilities in the Torah. So we're going to research a little bit, the shift in track that there was, from Chet Adam Rishon, and then the shift in track that there was, after Chet Ego, and then we can understand where Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur come from, because they weren't supposed to be there by track A. Right? Not long after Matan Torah, we have Parshas Mishpatim, right? The next parasha, and that's when we're first introduced to the three regalim. Right? Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur come later, and that's because of the failure that there was with Chet Ego. The Shalosh Regalim were always meant to be. The issue that emerged, was what emerged because of what happened is Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur to offset, as a counterbalance to how we push things off balance, as we're going to explain. Right, but with this you can understand that Sfas Emes, that the Ari writes in his in the Kavanas of Sfiras Omer. The Ari writes, anyone who's very nizer in the days of the Omer not to do any sin has nothing to worry when it comes to din of Rosh Hashanah. He'll make it. He has Avtacha, he'll make the grade. So the question is why. So Sfas Emes in Likutim says it's very simple why. Because there never was supposed to be a Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Right? And as we're going to explain further in just a second, the original plan was that the world earns its keep on Shavuos when we re-accept the Torah. Right? And that was plan A, right? Cheda Ego, set that back. And we're going to discuss it more in detail, what exactly was supposed to be and what exactly got set back. All right, a guy who lives clean.
From plan, when you say plan A, that's from.
Oh, so I'd say.
It was plan A.
Oh yeah, okay. I can't mix up. So yeah, it's right. It's really plan B as opposed to plan C. That's right. It's, these things have been. Yeah, right. Yeah. We forget. We're not different plan. Let's just not forget it. If we start numbering them, we're not. It's never going to end. Right? Yeah.
Isn't Rosh Hashanah the creation of the world? I know that
That's
we
right.
have the fact that we became
Right. So
a people in this and Pesach, but the fact is that there is something for humanity, for the entire world, the entire human world.
Okay.
Where they have to know about the creation of the world. We, of course, became a nation in Nisan, and that is the beginning of our world. But
But it wouldn't have been a time where God has to judge us to determine
Okay.
what's going to happen in the following year if we had never sinned. If we never sinned, we
Right.
wouldn't have gotten there.
Right.
I mean, it might be a day, to recognize that God created the world, but it's not this period of judging all humanity because we didn't sin. Sin never happened.
But there aren't there two Rosh Hashanahs, one for us and one for the entire world? All right, you don't think so?
No.
It's one Rosh Hashanah.
It's Rosh Hashanah, but yeah. Its place on the calendar and its role that it plays in the annual cycle would have been different. All right. So now let's talk about it. It says like this on the sixth day of creation, which was Rosh Hashanah. Right, the world Yehi Or was on Chof Hei Elul. The 25th of Elul was actually Yehi Or, and the Adam Rishon was created on the first day of Tishrei. That's why it's really Rosh Hashanah, because it's really the beginning of the world. Really starts with Adam because everything was there for him, for his sake. So as it were, things start from when Adam is in the world, and that's what the Medrash says, that just like he sinned and got judged on that day, so that day was already set aside, in potential, as we're about to explain. It always had the potential to be a day of judgment and to leave in grace, just like Adam Rishon was judged and left on grace. It's a medrash right there. Ata simin lebanecha kashem sheyatzata fanai badimus b'shana zu. You are simin for your descendants after, just like you were judged and you came out badimus. You came out with goodwill. You got an extension. You didn't die on the spot. He was able to. Of course, who made a plan for him that he could live outside of Eden the way we live today. Right, and that's called, with grace, he got a second chance. Right, so that's always going to be for every generation. So on this day, which was the sixth day of creation, So everyone knows the famous Gemara that Rashi brings in his Pirush on Chumash. It says, after Elokim es kol asher asa, v'hinei tov ma'od, vayerev vayiboker yom ha-shishi. Not yom shishi, yom ha-shishi, the sixth. Right? So the Gemara says, Rashi brings in the Chumash, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu made a condition with creation. That if Am Yisrael accepts the Torah, right, which was given on the 6th of Sivan, Hashishi is not referring to the day of the week. Hashish is referring to the 6th of Sivan. Right? If Am Yisrael accepts the Torah, then, right, so then the world deserves to exist. And if not, the world should go back to Tohu Vavohu. Right? That's part of the why Shavuos is a very, very joyous holiday amongst the many reasons. That the Gemara says Atzeres Kol Me'al Boni D'Milim Lachem, even though Rabbi Lezer holds Simchas Yontiv is not obligatory; it's only Rishus. But on Shavuos, yes, Yom Shnitna B'Torah, because the day Torah was given, and the Mefarshim explain based on this Chazal, because we have to celebrate life. Because if Am Yisrael wouldn't have received the Torah, the world would have gone back to oblivion. So it comes out like this: that the day that we call now Rosh Hashana, retroactively you now call that. In retrospect, we see that day, the day that creation was finalized on, well, we call now in retrospect Rosh Hashana, right? That was made conditional on Shavuos, right? The world is being completed today, but it's all on borrowed time to see if 26 generations later Am Yisrael receives the Torah or not, which means that when you think about it, it means creation only was finalized on Shavuos. Because the whole thing was conditional. Everything from Rosh Hashanah until Shavuos, for 26 generations, the whole thing was just conditional. The world wasn't, for lack of a better word, real. I mean, it was, hanging. Right? And that's what Chazal tell us, that in the Halal Agodo, the shtickle tilum that's called, Halal Agodo, all the kilo and chasos, there are 26 of them. And 26, Chazal say, connected to 26 generations, from the creation until Am Yisrael received the Torah. The world was just standing on pure chesed. Pure kindness. That did not really have the right to exist. Which means that, creation wasn't really firm, wasn't really finalized. Right? That means all the laws of nature that we know, that they seem so strong, that's, anyone who have been spiritually perceptive would have seen all these laws are limp, wavering, it's all conditional on whether Am Yisrael receives the Torah or not, and if not, the whole thing, will go back to oblivion. So it comes out that the real finality, of creation was Shavuos, because everything was just conditional until that time. All right, that's what finalized it. So now to go a little bit deeper into this, and realize, as it were, what the world was still missing, aside that everything is conditional, right? Everything was on condition, but what the world was missing was, its central goal, its central focal point. Well, the question is, what is life for? What's the purpose of life? You need, your central goal, is the point center is what you build your whole system around. That everything, whenever you set up an organization, whenever you set a plan, you have your goal. Everything in the plan is for the sake of that goal. No goal, there's no plan. There's no plan, there's no order. In any, let's say just to give an example, because it's the best example we could give, right? The justice system. You have to have a notion that justice is important, right? And that justice is something to strive for. And then around that, you make your laws, and that's your beacon. You will legislate laws as to what seems just. What seems unjust, you're not going to legislate like that. Right? You need your absolute point center of space, in ideology, to make all your plans around that. Otherwise, everything's tov vavohu. Right? So the world really got out of tov vavohu, with Matan Torah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu revealed the plan that was in heaven. It was until that time black fire and white fire, like Chazal say. He brought the plan to earth. Everyone could see, why the world is the way it is and for what purpose. Right? And that's called, with that, the world was finalized because the world got its structure, its ideological structure. Right? And like we just said, we were taught that the physical laws were all there on condition that the physical laws be lined up with the moral code that these physical laws are actually patterned after. The Istako Boraiso Bara Alma means that the physical laws, the physical code is patterned after a moral code. Right? And it's called that our other half was in heaven. Right? And then when the moral code comes down, so now the physical code that's modeled after. You understand why there has to be gravity. You understand because you can't do your mitzvahs without these things. You have to have the world as we know it, because only the world that we know is a world where Tariq mitzvahs would work, and where Tariq mitzvahs would produce the product of clinging to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and elevating everything. So it's called that the world got its structure. The world was, without structure until the Torah came to earth, right? And that would have been called, finalizing creation. It's that way also in the individual. The Rambam writes in the Shemona Prakim that of the five, he divides up the persona into the Kochos HaNefesh. He divides up into five levels, five components. And he says, there's the zon, there's just the life force to be alive. The power of your soul that just animates everything, makes the body alive, right? And then there's the ability to grow, to not grow. I meant to sense. Right? There's ability to sense, what makes the eyes see, because it's not just that the eyes are alive, they have the power to take in information. Right? So it considers that another power of the soul. Right? There's the drives, right? There's ava, yira, all the emotions. Right? There's the imagination, and then he says finally, the fifth level, right, is the intellect, where you and that says that's where your decisions, your intellect, of course, he means over there, the ability to understand right from wrong. And he says, there's not all these components are equal. He says the fifth level that he calls the intellect, the ability to understand ideas, right, which morality is included therein. And he says that level of soul is like the tzura that gives form to the first four. The first four just drives, right? Gives them structure and makes it that it's not just stomp drives, but it's part of a human soul, is when the intellect reigns on top of them, right? So the intellect is not just one more. It's not just 1 out of 5. It has the role that it gives structure, right? Law and order to the other 4. Because based on a intelligent person, a moral person is really an intelligent person that has thought about what's right and what's wrong, and based on that, on those judgments, that's how he's going to use his imagination. That's how he's going to use his emotions. That's how he's going to use his eyes and ears, and that's how he'll try to also live healthy. So the lowest part that just animates, he'll also try, right? Only go to the gym when it's the right thing, right? Right? That's right. So just like it's that way in the individual, his intellect is the form, and the other 4 levels of the persona are just like the clay to be shaped by that form. It's supposed to be the form that gives structure to his whole personality. And all the other kochos hanefesh are supposed to be shaped and guided. It was that way in the whole universe, that the Torah coming down is the final form for the world. That the world shouldn't be like a dead machine, right? You have to realize that morality, right? We call God's law, the right and the wrong is actually the meta code, right? That the code of the laws of physics were based on. And it's supposed to be we think that law is artificial, right? Mankind got together, and they just legislated it. And you can make a mistake of thinking that God's law is the same thing. There's reality, and then he legislated, and you gotta, and sort of cramping our style, right? Because I would love to do this, love that, but it's not that way, right? God's law is really the cosmic code. It's really the cosmic structure, and when that's revealed, you understand why we have the type of physics that we have, and why we have the type of chemistry and biology that we have, and when that's revealed and that's merged with the laws, right, that's when the laws of nature become firm, right? As opposed to until the Torah was revealed, everything was limp. The whole world was just conditional, just bechesed, right? Kilo and chasta.
When you say till we actually have Matan Torah, like with Moshe, or till Abraham?
Okay, so there are twilight zones, and we're going to get to that in a second. All right, I'm going to address that issue. All right, we're going to address that issue. Okay, so now for the world, so here's the interesting thing. Shavuos is called Matan Torah, all right, and yet there was something else. Moshe Rabbeinu's got to go up after Shavuos, the day after, for 40 days and 40 nights. All right. So Torah was given on the 6th of Sivan, but there's another thing. There's another stretch of 40 days after that, and we get the luchos. What are the luchos? Now we're getting to what luchos are. All right, because you see, for everything else other than man, it's very simple. Right? They don't have free will. Right? So once God reveals the Torah's instantly integrated. There's no internalization process, because anything other than man is just not difficult, right? Mankind's difficult, right? There's instantly when HaKadosh Baruch Hu reveals to any other creature other than man, any other creature that doesn't have free will, the Torah is revealed instantly. They naturally follow the Torah. They've been reunited with their source, and they can feel that. Man is a little bit more complicated, right? Because we have a mind of our own. And now, of course, having a mind of our own was meant to be, as it were, our mind should be antennas, to pick up God's thoughts. Right. So let me give you an example. Right. The Chazal say regarding Matan Torah, which is exactly what we're talking about. Even if Torah after Ma'amad Har Sinai, even if Moshe Rabbeinu would have not been invited up for those 40 days and 40 nights. And he said, God would have said, you're left to your own devices. We could have learned the Torah from creation. Chazal say we would have learned not to steal from ants, because ants don't steal from each other. Right? And you would have learned sneers from cats. Chazal give a whole bunch of examples. Again, going back to what we say, really, the laws of nature are a mirror of the laws of the Torah. And with the Matan Torah, the reflection was united with its source, right? And therefore you can now look at the reflection and see the source. You could have learned the Torah from the whole Bria. Okay, so what's our advantage? The ants do it automatically, right? They don't steal. We take the kids to yeshiva and teach them, about lo signovo, kuli hai v'ulei halavai, right? Right? What's our advantage? Right? We know we have it harder. So says the Radziner, says an amazing thing. Conduct this experiment at home. We say ants don't steal from each other. Right? So now put out some crumbs, right, on your shayish, right, on your counter, and say, in front of two Adam, I'm makbid, I'm not mafkirid. It's mine. It's mine. I'm makbid gomer. The ants will take it. Right? They don't steal from each other, but they steal from me. Why? Because it's true. Their program not to steal from each other comes from the lo signovu, the Torah in heaven. But since it comes down as an instinct and not as a moral judgment, that's why they only do lefi their programming. And they were only programmed not to steal with each other. We have our advantage is that we're not naturally linked up with the Torah like the creatures of nature, that all their programs, all their instincts are coming directly from the Torah. We hook up with the Torah with our intellect, but that's to our advantage in the big picture because we get it as moral judgment. So we will apply lo signovu not just to you're supposed to at least, apply lo signovu not just to not steal from who you don't feel like stealing from, but you really will never steal, ever, whether you feel like it or not. That's our advantage. Because Torah came to us as in a guise of intellect, that we have God's thoughts in our head. But you have to have a mind of your own to have, but that's the challenge of having a mind of your own. Are you going to use it as antennas to get the Torah as a moral code? Because the other creatures don't have it as a moral code. They have it as programming. Just like gravity, the malachim also, and the animals, everything they do is based on programming that's somehow rooted in Torah, but it's programming. For us, it's das, right? It's seichel. And that's the challenge. And that's what needs another 40 days. And now you should know the number 40. Number 40 is, whenever you're talking about formation, you find the number 40. So Chazal say, first and foremost, Tzuras Havlad, that the first 40 days after conception, it's still for first 40 days, the embryo is Maya Baum, it's just water, no form. That's why, I'm not recommending anything, but there's no problem with abortion the first 40 days. There's nothing there. The issue of, there's Tzuras Havlad from 40 days moving forward, but of course, ask your Orthodox rabbi first, right? But, there's just, that's what the Gemara says, right? There's no Tzuras Havlad, there's no human form for the first 40 days, right? So now connected to the world, right? We know on Shabbos how many malachas are you not allowed to do, because that's what it took to create a world. 40. 39, technically. The 40th is Ma'alam Chaser, Shabbos Bo Menucha. Right, the 40th was Shabbos itself, the completed world. 40 malachas to make a world. Connected to 40 days to form a human form. Right, the big picture runs parallel to the 40 steps to give it shape. Right, the world had mass from day one. Or, Shemayim V'aretz Arso Tohu V'Vohu. Right, what needed to, moving forward is to shape it. All the other the other 9 ma'amoros after Bereshis was all about giving it form, and we're taught that it involved 39 steps. The 40th was the coming of Shabbos itself. Right? Give it tzura, to go from tohu v'vohu to having tzura. Right? Same thing with us, even after Torah was revealed. Right? Right? What the difficulty is that to make the Torah stick to us and to reform us, that we should repattern our intellect based on the Torah. Right? Reprogram ourselves, refashion ourselves, reform ourselves. And now we understand what luchas are. Luchas were connected the phenomenon of that God's law will be engraved in our hearts. Right? My Rebbe, Moshe Shapiro Zichron Livracha, we used to fight with him about this all the time. That which, we draw luchas with curved tops. There's not a single sheet in the marriage that says that, luchas look like that. The luchas were cubed. Yeah. No one thinks, in Chazal. It's never they said, and they had that, curved top, So, in Shir.
Cube or they're a rectangle?
I mean a cube as in, they had depth also. They weren't flat tablets, Yeah. Anyway. A lot of neat things it says in Chazal, but it doesn't say they had a curved top, right? The way everyone draws it. And so we used to argue with him in Shir. That's all from Michelangelo. We just copied from him. But he said, Chas v'shalom, you don't be a bunch of wise guys. It's already ancient. Am Yisrael draws that way. Zelev, it's a heart. We draw that way because of mitzvah what luchas represent. They represent the heart. Like Koheles says, Kosveim al luchos libecha. Engrave them on the tablets of your heart. Because the pshat is like this. The luchos represented a phenomenon. And which, as we're going to explain, it has to be recreated by the Rosh Hashana Yom Kippur Continuum, as we're going to explain. But the luchos represented a phenomenon. That we have God's words engraved on our hearts.
So maybe that's why it wasn't seen.
What?
So that's why you said earlier it wasn't seen, that maybe
That's right. It's the
every
heart.
person has to have it.
That's right. It's all, the luchos represented a phenomenon that the Divrei Torah was supposed to be internalized, right? And the finality of the process was engraved in the heart. And when it's on that level, right? Then there's no schism between body and soul, and that's what the first luchos were. V'luchos ma'aseh kim hema v'michtav kim choros al luchos. Right, the luchos were divine, and the writing was divine, equally as divine. Because when Divrei Torah fully internalized, your body, there's nothing gets lost from head, from getting your command, understanding what's right, and actually going forward and doing it, without veering to the right, veering left, or simply not doing it, God forbid. Right? In that situation of where Am Yisrael was supposed to be, right? There was supposed to be that the Divrei Torah fully internalized in the mind and in the heart. And so, and that's something very, very important to understand. To understand the role of these two organs, the mind and the heart. Right? There is a continuum between them, but they do have different functions. It is a continuum, but they have different functions. Right? The mind gets the ideas. The mind is the antenna that picks up the ideas and picks up the basic axioms, right? The basic information. Right? The Zohar says that Chachma ubina is mocha v'liba. The difference between Chachma and Bina is the difference between mind and heart. What does that mean? Right? Chachma is moach, Bina is leiv. It's a Zohar. That's what's between Chachma and Bina. So Rashi and Chumash tells us Chachma is masha adam mekabel mirabo, what you are taught, right? Your first axioms, your basic axioms, your basic truths, which are generally taught to you by someone else, right? The raw material that you're working with, your axioms. That's Chachma. Bina is now mevin davar mitoch davar. Now you're working with it. Now you have to apply it. You got to apply it, right? And so the function of the mind is to get the concepts, but then there's working with the concepts. Right? So now, when you want to take a correct measurement of something, going with the old-fashioned balance scales, right? You have to make sure that two things are correct. First of all, that the weights that you're using, right, the 1 pound weight, the two are really weigh 1 and 2 pounds, right? And that's why we have a losa se doraisa, not to be in possession of inaccurate weights and measures. You got to make sure that the weights and measures really weigh what they say they weigh. But then you need something else. The scale that you put them on has to be balanced. Right? Sometimes there could be an evus, there could be something crooked because of the weights that you're working with. Sometimes there could be something wrong with the scale. Chochma, right? The mind, that's where you get your weights from. The 1 pound, the 2 pounds, the 5 pounds. The heart is the scale you put them on. Right? That's the Bina, how you're going to apply it, how you're going to work with it, how you're going to handle it. Right? That's what we say, you have a negias, you have a bias. The bias is in the heart. Right? The scale is not balanced. But it could be something even worse, that you're even working with faulty weights. Right? Faulty weights. And that to be a person that's, richtig, you have to make sure you have correct weights and measures. That's chokhmah. And that's the role of the mind, the moach. Right? And you also have to make sure that the scale, the way you handle with it, right, is balanced. And that's the function of the heart. That's the
shikol hadas is the
shikol
function of the heart.
Absolutely. Shikol. That's correct.
Okay.
That is correct. Right?
In modern language, they say there's the data, and then there's what the story you tell yourself about the data. There's information, the weights, and then there's how how you frame it, through what lens you see it.
That's correct. That's correct. That's the function. That's what the mind is, and that's what the heart is. Right? And the Shavuos itself, you could say it's connected the moach.
Why is it the heart? Shikol hadas is really balanced.
That's right.
view. It's really a balanced, sort of clear perspective.
Right.
Why is it the heart?
Why is that the heart? Because the heart is where you have a right side and a left side.
Brain cell.
Right? Well, no, yeah, that's a modern Zach, right side, left side. Right. Heart, it's already in Chazal, in Tanakh. Leiv chacham liyamino. Leiv tzil small, the idea of b'chol levavcha. There's two hearts, to the right and to the left. In the eyes of the Torah, where it branches to the right and to the left, right? And you have to make sure it's balanced. That's the heart, right? Now, don't get me wrong. A person, and that is what we're trying to get to. You could be corrupted in the head also. But corrupted in the head, that's really hard to fix because that's not an issue of balance. If your weights, if the terms that you're working with are inaccurate, right? You work with things like social justice, right? Identity politics, things that lo haya v'lo nivra, and things are being weighed out with these things. Oh, you are seriously messed up. It's very hard to fix that. That is very hard to fix.
Most people's
right?
scales are messed up. That's the thing.
No, but over there in our door, we're talking about Rosh Hashana as opposed to, we're going to get to, you got to get the weight straight. Not just, forget about straighten yourself out, straighten out your personal scale, that you will be you'll handle balanced, right? We got to get the actual weights and measures that we're working with straight, right? The gift of the Torah is that the Torah gave us both, right? True information, true data, right? But the Torah also gave us a method of how to reckon, right? How to handle with the data, right? The Gidrei Talmud Torah, which is the Midas Shatana Dreshes Bam, with the Shakla Vitaria of the Gemara, right? The academic rigor, which is really it's really the difference between the Mishnah and the Talmud. Right? The Mishnah gave us the correct data. The Talmud showed us how to handle with it. And it's Taka, the Maral says, Mishnah is Chachma and Talmud is Bina. The Maral says that. Right? The final psak that results, the final ruling is Das. Right? So, the result is, Moach, Leiv, Das, the final decision, right? The final outcome, so that's Chachma, Bina, Das being the final result. Right, but after it gets processed through the Chachma Bina, that's Moach and Leiv. And the Torah gave us both, right? The Torah gave us the true information, and the Torah also gave us a way to, an objective way of how to handle the information, because you could totally mishandle information and play, even take true data and warp it, right?
Is there a word in Torah for, Moach is not in Torah. What's the word in Torah for your mind? Is there a word?
Rosh. Yeah. No, but the Torah talks about a chacham einav berosho. The Torah uses the word Rosh, like Rosh Hashana, as we're going to explain. Torah used the what? Kloyos is kidneys. That's kloyos so kloyos yoatzos, right? So that's eitzah. That's making a plan. That's how to what you decide to do, right?
What's it together? Kloyos v'leiv. What's it talking about?
No, so leiv, because that's where the final decision comes out, right? But the kloyos yoatzos, right? Chazal say, right? You get eitzah. That's an approach. Okay, how am I going to go about it? How to go about it? You decide what you have to do. And there's a question how you go about it. That's eitzah. That's after you decide what you want to do. Then you have to now figure out how do I do it. That's eitzah. That's where that's what Atzas Hashem is God's plans. What we call a plan. That's the Torah calls eitzah. When you go to a Baal eitzah, you know what's right and wrong, but you just you need an approach. And that's the function of the class. That's further down the line after you've decided what's right and wrong. But now it's another issue of how to go about it. That's what eitzah is, right?
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
If Rosh Hashanah is here, so you're saying Rosh Hashanah.
No, we haven't explained yet. How Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur are going to now come and supplement for what went wrong after Shavuos, right? And that's why it's exactly this place in the calendar to pick up the pieces again to get to Sukkot, as explained. Yeah, but
Understood. Yeah.
okay. So And that's and it's the problem is the distance from head to heart. It could take 40 days, but the distance from head to heart is the difference between having knowing what's right but having the personality of a behemoth, being an immature person, and knowing what's right and having a developed personality. The whole monumental hakdama of the Chovos Halevavos to a sefer, duties of the heart. Chovos Halevavos, he says that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about building a personality based on the truths of the Torah. That's so that's a process. You can know what's right, but then you have to further build your whole persona based on those truths. So the moach gets the truths. It gets the true data. It gets those weights and measures. But now you got to build yourself based on those weights and measures, and in a non-biased way, objectively. And that's the transition from mind to heart. So he says, you could use. He says over there, it's like the use of Sadigon's emunas v'deis. He said true things, but I'm going to teach you. The gist of what he said, I'll teach you how to build your personality based on it. Right? So now, in the human experience, that's just between emuna and bitachon. Emuna and bitachon. It's in Rusad Yagon, and all the later Rishonim, copied it from him. He says, every Baal bitachon obviously has emuna. Because if you didn't have emuna, you have bitachon. But not everyone who has emuna has bitachon. Because, what's in bitachon that's not in emuna? Emuna, of course, everyone knows God is in control. Everyone knows Eino Milvad. Everyone knows that. Right? It's the most basic truth every believing Jew knows. Right? So why do you freak out when something's not going exactly your way? Because you know that Eino Milvad, but your emotions and even things that are more your conscious thought, you're not. It doesn't work based on the emuna that you have. So, emuna alone is just in the head. When you have bitachon, it's called that it went from head to heart. And now you built a prayer that you don't just believe it, you actually live it, and you're real with it. And that's why you never lose your cool under any circumstances. So a Baal bitachon definitely has emuna, but not every Baal emuna has bitachon. Because emuna is in the head. Right, bitachon is when it goes from head to heart. Right, that you've now you live with it. You've refashioned your feelings and your whole perception of reality based on it, based on what you know to be true. This is what you know it to be true, but you know it to be true, and but the way you run your affairs has nothing to do with what you know to be true. Everyone knows you shouldn't steal. Everyone knows that. There's not a politician that actually doesn't know that it's also to steal. It's amazing, right? Right? And they even make these laws about something to do with not stealing, and they steal all the time. That's why you go to politics, right? It's get closer to the treasury. That's why you go, right? Everyone knows you can't steal. Everyone knows that, that's just to whether it's in the, it's just in the head or it's in the heart. Also, and that's the process when it went into luchas, and when it reaches the heart by plan A, then there's plan B we're going to discuss, which is our situation. But by plan A, when it would reach the heart, it would be called cemented, totally cemented. That the luchas are Maaseh Elokim, just like the dibur, just like the words are the words of God. The tablets that's engraved on, representing the heart, right, is also equally as divine. And and that's the level of naaseh before nishma that you could be sure you could be pre-committed to do exactly what Hashem wants, and nothing will get lost in the transition. That's naaseh kodem nishma. Right? Yeah. So that yes.
Nasa and Nishma would be the opposite way, though. Nasa, if you have your action done, that's going to be something. That's the bitachon part. That's the lead. The Nishma,
right. So it means sof ma'isa. So it means nasa for nishma. The Gaon explains is sof ma'isa machshava tchila, which means that nothing's going to get lost in transition. The sof ma'isa is totally hooked up with the machshava tchila. Nothing gets warped or and. Right? And that was the madrega of Luchas Rishonos, and that's why regarding the Luchas Rishonos, the famous mission of us is a pasuk by the first Luchas, not a pasuk by the second Luchas. Va'mechlavim chorus al Luchas al tikre chorus el cherus, that Am Yisrael at that time was immortal. And then Chazal say, therefore you makabel yourself old Torah, so you have cherus, en lecha ben chornel misha isik patorah. You are totally beyond the Eitzar, you're beyond death. That was by Luchas Rishonos, right? And that was what was meant to be. Now, where did it all go wrong? Is because we totally did something which is the antithesis of that, right? Because the Indian of cheta ego, right? The Kuzri writes, right? was they decided to take matters in their own hands, right? All right. So by their own calculations, Moshe Rabbeinu had not come back on time. Right? So. That was so now that that was their first failure. That it never occurred to them that they miscalculated. Okay, and step one of wanting to connect your das to a higher intelligence is to realize the limitations of your own das and how much you would want to take that higher intelligence because you don't have all the answers. So it started with Vayam Kiboshes Moshe Loredes Mahar. Chazal say Boshesh. By their calculations, it was already chatzos. Timing it up. All right, but then it went one step further, as the Kuzri explains. All right, so it's starting off with a faulty axiom, right? So you understand how they undid the whole thing, both on not just on the Lev aspect, even on the Moach. They start with a faulty axiom. Moshe Rabbeinu is not coming back, right? So now they started developing it further. Right? So, okay, we got to take matters into our own hands. What do we do? Right? Now, going with the Mahalach of the Kuzri, Moshe, he understands, and it's not that anyone disagrees regarding the principles that we need for the purpose of our presentation tonight. Right? But going with the Kuzri, right? He understands that Moshe Rabbeinu promised them a Mishkan before he went up to Har Sinai. When I come back, I'm coming back with plans for a Mishkan, and God's presence will be revealed, Shachanti b'socham. All right, so now we're not going to have this Mishkan anymore. We got to do something instead. So they got very creative. They had a brilliant cheshbon. He says, look, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Lo sascha pesel v'chol tmuna. And yet the Mishkan is going to have all these graven images, whether they knew the details or not. They didn't even know the deal, but they knew it's going to be stuff, tangible stuff. Right? So they made a really lamdish cheshbon, says the Kuzri. It must be that this thing about not making idols is only asur if you're not doing it l'shem shamayim. But if you do it l'shem shamayim, like a mishkan, do it for Hashem. It's mutter. And that was wrong. The cheshbon was wrong. Right? Because the truth is what makes the mishkan mutter is not that it's done l'shem shamayim, it's the tzivui, the divine directive is what makes it mutter. Their logic was flawed. Right? And of course, he has a vested interest to say that because the king that he's speaking to, the king accused Am Yisrael of avodah zarah mamish just right after Mammon. I said, no, they did it l'shem shamayim. So he's trying to explain how they did the whole thing l'shem shamayim, but the thinking was totally off, right? From the axiomatic level, right, that Moshe Rabbeinu is not coming back, to the way they started working based on that, the further developing and how to work with, they knew that it's asur to make idols. But they reckoned with that idea, they handled that idea wrong, and made a faulty cheshbon that if there could be a mishkan, ergo, right? If you do it l'shem shamayim, it's all mutter. It's only asur if you do it l'shem avodah zarah, and that's wrong. That's not the halacha. What makes the mishkan mutter is because God said to do it. It's the tzivui. All right? Okay. So lamdish mistake, but that's the problem. Right, and with that you understand the lashon of the medrash that draws a direct parallel between the sin of Adam Arishan and the chet ha'ego. That the medrash in Parshas Shmi qualifies that ozvu das makom v'holchu acharei datam. In both cases, they left das makom. They weren't following the das of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. They went after their own das. Right? A mistake on the axiomatic level, and it's a mistake on the on how the idea was further developed, right? So we spoke before, right? That we're supposed to use human intelligence as a antenna to receive divine intelligence, and when we do it, we're better than the ants because they just get a programming of Lo Signovu, and we're supposed to get it as das. And therefore we could apply it, right, and do it in all circumstances, not just when we're programmed, right? Now they used human intelligence, to go their own way. So now, so very interesting, a Medrash in Parshas Yisro that says like this, right? When it gives a mashal that a king asked for 2 cups of wine. Right? So the bartender pours 2 cups of wine. He's there on his way, to bring the 2 cups of wine. And an egel, right, a calf, got out of its barn, rammed into him. 1 cup broke. So gives the king the 1 cup of wine that he still has. So the king says, "You better watch the other one, otherwise," right? So it says, we poured 2 kaisos by Kadosh Baruch Hu by Sinai, Naaseh v'Nishma. Right? Then we did Cheta Ego. Amar Kadosh Baruch Hu, Shavartem Naaseh, Hizaru b'Nishma. Right? You broke Naaseh. You better guard Nishma. Amazing thing. The Medrash is qualifying that the Shviras Haluchas was connected breaking the Naaseh of Naaseh v'Nishma. Shavartem Naaseh. Right? Which is really parallel to the Luchas themselves. Valuchos Maisa Elokim Hema. Vamichtav Michtokim. The Luchos were called Maisa Elokim. Shavartem Naaseh. Keneged Naaseh v'Nishma. The Luchos, which were called Maisa Elokim, parallel to Naaseh, right? And that's what broke. Right? We broke the tablets. We broke them. We broke the Madrega of Naaseh because, as we explained, the Madrega of Naaseh is that from the Word of God down to the Gemar HaMaisa, with all the lumdus that we have to make in between, nothing gets lost in transition, right? It's a straight transition from the mouth of God down to our final doing of it. It's not that way anymore. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu didn't withdraw the Torah from us, right? Baruch Hashem. Moshe Rabbeinu fought with him over this, and God did not repossess the Torah. So we have Nishma, we could hear Divrei Torah. We were missing Naaseh. That's not so simple that the Divrei Torah should just be, absorbed in the mind, and from the mind to the heart, and from the heart to the Gemar Maisa. So we have Divrei, we could hear Divrei Torah, but it's a big challenge, right, to get it into the heart. That, nothing should get lost in the transition. Nothing should be ignored, nothing should be mishandled. Nothing should be, warped based on our interests, or the zeitgeist, the Ruach Hazman, right? It shouldn't be influenced in any way. Yes?
I'm not sure how to, but didn't the first Luchos provide certain clarity that the...
Yeah, but it's all parallel to this idea that it was the Madrega of Naaseh v'Nishma.
Your clarity,
right?
your actions
Yeah.
what...
Yeah, so now I'll say, pulling our minds away from having it cling, to be antennas, to pick up the divine intelligence, but using the mind as its own instrument, working on its own, that was the Mahus Chet. And that's called Shavartem Naaseh. Now there's no guarantee that it'll go straight from Dvar Hashem down to Gemar Maisa, because the mind and heart that's in between is not fully in sync. So now the second Luchos, parallel that. They're not Maisa Elokim. The second Luchos are Psolacha, they're earthly stone, representing that, the body and includes the intelligence that's in the body, the bodily intelligence, the mind and heart in the body. They're not Maisa Elokim anymore. It's not fully aligned with the divine, and that's the the big challenge that we have. But it's all that we have, right? So now you can understand something. The tikkun of Shavuos was reversed. Originally, plan A, Shavuos would be the finality of creation. Because everything that was done on the original Rosh Hashana, right, was all out tonight, that Am Yisrael be Makabel Torah. Kabbalah Torah means that literally the Torah should be absorbed within reality. For reality, it happened instantly. By men, which are difficult because we have our own mind and heart that need to be conditioned, it was an extra 40 days. The finality of that process would have been Luchas, where it's mamish engraved in stone, like engraved in the heart. Right? That aspect got, so that was the aspect that got offset, which means now Rosh Hashanah makes a comeback. Because originally Rosh Hashanah is supposed to be settled with Shavuos. Right? So it's really ongoing. Creation is still in the making. Right? And it comes, Shavuos. Right? And that would have finalized everything. And from Shavuos straight to Mashiach. So now we can understand the cycle of the Shalosh Regalim, right? Explaining in this context, is that the Chazal divide the 6,000 years of destiny into 3 eras: Alpayim Tohu, Alpayim Torah, Alpayim Mashiach. All right, which this is why it really stinks, our situation, because really Mashiach was meant to have a 2,000-year empire. By the original Plan B, directly after Chet Adam Rishon, Mashiach was supposed to have a 2,000-year empire. Really, and we really screwed up. But by the original immediate Plan B after Chet Adam Rishon, right, was that 2,000 years the world will still be running amok. Then it'll be 2,000 years of Torah, and then 2,000 years of Mashiach. Right? And that's the end of the Shalosh Regalim. They parallel these 3 eras. Right? Right? And we're going to understand why they're called Regalim in a second. Right? Right? That Pesach, right? Chag Cheruseinu, getting out of the tohu, getting out of the shapelessness and the formlessness. You got to understand that Yetzias Mitzrayim doesn't just not getting just out of Egypt. And we spoke about this a few times. It represents a shift in era, right? That Mitzrayim is the final word of a whole world order that's Dora Mabul, right? Dora Flaga, Stone, right? Mitzrayim, just one of the players of that whole lawless era of all these civilizations that tried, to give their own imprint to the world before there was a Torah on earth. And Yetzias Mitzrayim represents the finality, Cheros from all of them, not just Mitzrayim. From everything, even from the Dor HaMabul, it's all one continuum, it's all one Hemshech. So even if there's a twilight zone called Avram Avinu in between, and that's why, if you work out technically, Avram Avinu was born in 1948, and he began his ministry at the age of 52. According to some Shitas, that means he started preaching at the year 2000, right? But that's one man, and he was pretty much ignored, right? Because by the next generation, there's only one left, Yitzchak, right? The Nefesh Shasu B'Choron, it was just flash in the pan. It was nothing. He didn't change the world.
That generation.
So he had Nefesh Shasu B'Choron for just one generation. Petered out one generation later, and Avraham Avinu knew that, and that's why he wanted a son so badly. He knew he couldn't depend on Eliezer. Now that the Shitas, the Pirkei Rebbe says, what Eliezer happened with it? He became Og Melech HaBashan. The Pirkei Rebbe holds that Og Melech HaBashan, one of the big, was Eliezer Eved Avram. He fried out. Again, there's a Shita that says that he's alive even this day and he's serving the Avos in Marasa Machpelah. But there's a Shita that even Eliezer, the big Talmud, didn't know, right? There's Pirkei Rebbe Eliezer. So there's a twilight zone. He started preaching, right? But nonetheless, right? Afal Pikein, the world didn't change. Yetzias Mitzrayim is the liberation from a lawless world which had no Torah on earth. So that's what, so the Yetzias Mitzrayim is the end of Tohu. And that's why, Moshe told us in Shir, right? But I think it's Mefurish in the Zohar, right, that it ends with Kriyas Yamsuf. To teach you that the whole Mitzrayim was all a hemshech of Dor HaMabul. It's like it never ended until Yetzias Mitzrayim. The real end to Dor HaMabul was Yetzias Mitzrayim. That's all part of the world order of Tohu. Shavuos, obviously, Keneged Torah, right? And then, the Alpayim Torah. And Sukkos, right, is Keneged, the last leg of the journey, right? Literally leg of the journey. That's why they're called Regalim. It's the journey. It's the journey, the journey of destiny, Regalim, right? So the last leg of the journey, right, is Sukkos, right? That's Chag HaOsef. It all comes to fruition. It's like the end, and you pull it all in. It's the benefit. Mashiach puts a capstone and pulls together the benefit of all the generations. That's why there's a din of Hakel, the Melech comes out and reads the Torah to the people, at the end of Sukkot. And at Shmini Atzeres, we know the 8th is already Keneged Olam Haba. Just us and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Suda Ketana, that the Ramban says. Right? So now the cycle of the Shalosh Regalim was Keneged, the 3 steps of destiny. If that's why Regalim, right? The journey of destiny, right? That's what it is, and that's and that's also what happens, right? That we go Aliyah LaRegel. So as my Rebbe again, Rav Moshe Zichrono Livracha used to say, raising the legs, right? The legs is what connects us to earth. but we raise the legs, aliyah l'rego. We bring earth to God. Come to the Mishkan, the Mikdash, where we bring our artzius, our earthliness, to Him, right? Liros, and that's why it's called mo'adim, lihiva'ed, to get together. It's where Gashmias meets Ruchnias. Raise up the Gashmias to the Ruchnias. Right? It's where our space meets His space, but in a way that we go to Him, He doesn't come to us. So it's not like we meet in the middle. It's one way. We bring it all to Him. Right? So regalim are connected steps in the journey of destiny, right? Which ends up, with everything being by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Right? HaKadosh is going to make we're going to be all around the HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and He's in the middle, right? So all the regalim are steps towards that. And the three regalim being connected, the three major landmarks in destiny, right? And we bring our world to Him, raise up the legs, right? But Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur are not about regalim. They're not about bringing our world to Him. It's about state of mind. It's about state of mind. It's about getting the mind and heart back together again. Right? Rebuilding the aspect of Shavuos that we lost. Right? There's a flat tire, got to put on the spare to make it to Sukkot. Right? What got ruined, what got warped, was our mind and heart, right? And that's what needs to be fixed. The work of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur is all internal, right? The regalim is external in the sense that our world, we raise up our world to Him. Over here, we're working on our inner world because that's what's corrupted and needs to be fixed, right? And in a certain way, it's deeper. The Gemara says, first one Yom Kippur, So even though there's no din of aliyah l'rego, but yet the Kohen Gadol went lifnai v'lifnim, where no one could go any other time. He went into most inner chambers of reality. Because the regular Yom Tov, the Regimel Regalim, is to bring our world to Him. Elevate the Raglaim. Over here, we're working on the inner core of our being, which runs parallel, like we learned in the direction. Everything about us runs parallel to the cosmos. Our inner chamber runs parallel to the inner chamber of reality. So now that's why Yom Kippur, which is all in the heart, and Rosh Hashanah, we're going to say, is all in the head. That's why it's called Rosh. We're going to explain this in a second, right? And it's all the process of rebuilding mind and heart. Rosh and Lev. Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. Right, but what we're working on during these two chagim is not aliyah l'rego. Working on our inner. We're not elevating the external world to bring kedusha to the. Working on our minds and hearts, but which do run parallel to the inner chambers of reality. So the Kohen Gadol goes into the Kodesh HaKadoshim on Yom Kippur, and now there's an amazing thing. There's a Gemara in Rosh Hashanah that says you can't put gold on the shofar. The shofar that you blow with. You cannot have gold on it. Can't decorate it with gold, right? Because ein kateger nasa saneger, right? Because gold is cheta ego, which is the whole reason why we need a Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. We got to rebuild for how the cheta ego threw everything off, right? So the Gemara asks a question like this, right? Hare, we see that this is only a problem in the Kodesh HaKadoshim because the Kohen Gadol wore big day zav year round in the Beis HaMikdash, right? Just for the lifnai v'lifnim, you had to wear big day lavan. You had to wear white only for the Kodesh HaKadoshim. So it means it's only a problem in the Kodesh HaKadoshim, right? In the regular space of the Beis HaMikdash, you wore gold all the time, right? So in our shuls, in Chutz La'aretz, we can't have gold on the shofar. So says the Gemara, shofar, kevan de lezikoron ka'asi kilifnim dami. Since shofar comes to remember us. That's like being lifnai v'lifnim. That's like being in the most inner chambers of reality. The chamber of God's thoughts. So as much as there's no aliyah l'rego, it's all avodas pnim. But our inner world, it runs parallel to the cosmic inner core. And that's why shofar, even it's l'zikaron, right? It's l'zikaron, right? It's close to God. Sheyal zichonechem l'fanai l'toiva. So it's called we've gone into the innermost chamber of reality. And that's why you can't have gold on the shofar. It's like the lifnai v'lifnim. It's a Gemara. And that's why Yom Kippur ended off with Luchas Shniyas, to whatever extent we could rebuild. And so now we're getting into Rosh Hashana, Rosh, head. That the idea of, Elul was a preparatory period. Because Elul, we explained in another shir, Elul was connected carving the stones. Then there's engraving on the stones. The engraving happens in these 10 days. Moshe Rabbeinu goes up with stones to heaven, and the whole Elul is part of the avodah psolacha, chipping away. We should be working at chipping away at ourselves during Elul, like making a slab of stone tablets that are have the potential. The 10 days of Rosh Hashanah is the writing on the tablets, right? And you have to get your head straight, right? Right, and that's Rosh Hashana. We daven Sheniel Rosh V'lo L'zanav. What is that? What is that poetry? Niel Rosh V'lo L'zanav. Right? You have to have the Rosh Dag. Now, Mom, what are we talking about? Because the reason why, the Svarim say, right? Man stands on 2 legs with his head up. Animals walk on 4. Their heads are down. Because an animal is not led by his intellect. Animals led by its instincts. They have brains and they make decisions. They're not stupid. They're running their affairs better than we run ours, right? I never saw any animals in counseling. Right? Fine. Right? They run based on their instinct, even though they have brains. The brain is not the melech. The brain is not the melech, so that's why the head is not any higher than the rest of the body. And here's the catch. The Zohar says something interesting about the snake. Not a tail. What's that? It refers to the snake, the nachash, the Yetzer Hara. The snake, something very interesting, the Zohar says, it has its head in the ground, and you know why, because that's where its food is, afar tochal, right? And its tail is actually higher than its head, and it hits people with its tail. Right? As if, looks like the tail is leading. Because that's the way it is by the Rishonim that are controlled by the Yetzer Hara. Their leader is actually their tail. Their lowest aspects, their lowest drives are what run them. And the head is in service of, what do they use their intellect for? Right? How to get what I am mitaveh for, whatever I have a taiva for, how do I get it? Right? The type is that's why we daven Sheniel Rosh V'lo L'zanav, that our leader should be, the Rosh should be our leader, right? Not our base desires. Right? Rosh Hashanah is all about getting our head straight, and this has to come before tshuva. Even though Rosh Hashanah is technically one of the Aseres who made tshuva, we don't do tshuva on Rosh Hashanah. We spoke about this in previous years. And it's an amazing thing. We're on trial, and we don't do anything about it. We are on trial, right? And we don't do anything about it. Because we have to undo the aspect of what we corrupted about Shavuos. Shavuos was Kabbalah Satar, to accept God's law, and we didn't go with it all the way, right? Because when things became confusing, we went we followed our gut and we didn't stick with the Das Torah, right? So that's why on this day we have to accept God's law upon us unconditionally. And we just say, "Ein lanu melech ela ata," right? Because it's not a time to work the system. It's a time to accept upon yourself the system. God's law is my law, and I don't care what the consequences are. I have to be accepting, and that's why this day of standing trial is also called the day of being mamlich HaKadosh Baruch Hu, coronating him. Right? We disposed him with Chet HaEgel, and we disposed him by not following his das, right? Not following his law. Rosh Hashanah, where we're mamlich him, it's to submit to his law, unconditionally, right? I don't want a pleasant life. I want a life of living by the law of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Right? And everything about Rosh Hashanah is Rosh, right? It's about getting things straight. Let's just get straight. You're the boss. I work for you. Right? And when you get that straight, right, then you could say sorry. There's no doing tshuva before you get that straight, right? That's the problem in the abusive relationships. I mean, whatever. in abusive relationship, they say sorry all the time. They say sorry all the time. Sorry is like every other word. But the bottom line is, look, I'm in charge, not you. Right? And that's why the relationship is bad and abusive, even though she says sorry all the time. But sorry doesn't mean anything. Sorry doesn't mean anything if you don't have, you don't have your ethics and your values straight. That, yes, I respect you. Yes, you have your own space. If you don't have those ideas straight, all the sorry is worthless. All the sorry is worthless. Right? And that's what Rosh Hashanah is about, getting the Rosh, getting the axioms straight. Right? That's, okay, behind the simanim that we eat, it's like signposts, getting it straight. Right? This is, setting things up the way they should be. Right? Setting up the axioms. Right? And when you get your head straight, get your axiom straight, that's getting your weights and measures. That's the Rosh. And the main weights and measures is God's king, and I work for him. That's bottom line. And that is the guiding principle. We get that straight, that he's the Melech, and I want to be under him no matter what the consequences are. Even if the Yetzer Hara will offer me a more pleasurable life, I just want to be under him. Right? The Rabbeinu Avram ben Arambam, I just try not to think about this too often, what I'm about to tell you, right? But the Rabbeinu Avram ben Arambam, has a sefer called Sefer HaMaspik, Love the Hashem. He says, what's called to really love God? What's called to really love him? Right? So he gives a theoretical model, which says will never happen because God is merciful, he won't do this, but it's a serious question, and that's really this is the issue that's between the lines of the tefillah in Rosh Hashanah, where we're on trial, but we don't try to clap, plea bargain or nothing, right? Why we blow shofar, but only because the Kodesh told us to blow shofar, right? It says like this: ask yourself what you would do if God would come to you and say like this: mitzvahs are what I want you to do. Averos is what I don't want you to do. Right? But if you do mitzvahs, which is what I want you to do mitzvahs, I put you in hell. Right? Averos, which I don't want you to do Averos. But if you do the Averos, I'll put you in heaven. What would you do? Yeah, you said it.
I think that's weird.
What?
I think that's weird.
It's
weird.
no, they said it won't happen. But the question is like this.
That's crazy.
It's not
Sit down
quite.
and think about it.
You prefaced it. You prefaced my statement with, don't think about this.
Right? For love of God. God says, I want you to do it. So you do it because he wants you to do it. Because he's the king. He's the boss. Not because you have a better life. Not because you have a better life. Because it's the truth. Because it's the truth. Right? And that's an amazing point you have to get, in setting our heads straight. We talk about avoda lishma. The Rambam, he says it's based on his father, the Rambam. The Rambam said, what's avoda lishma? Do it lishma. So it says the Rambam, how does the Rambam define that? Oses emes b'pnei shu emes. You do it because it's true. Now the Rambam assures you, sofa tova lo v'glola, you won't suffer from it. Only good things will happen. But oses emes b'pnei shu emes. You just do it because it's the truth. That's Rosh Hashanah. And that's getting your head straight. What are your axioms? And then you start building it. That's your base. That's your head. Right? Those are your axioms. The basic axiom. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the Melech, and I work for him. And I work for him because it's his own truth, not because I get anything out of it. Now, when you get that straight, you have the right to say sorry. Right? But let's get it straight. And in the whole process of after you get your head straight on Rosh Hashanah, that's why it's called Rosh, Mamish, the head. Getting your head straight, getting the axiom straight. Right? Then the process of tshuva that follows, right, is all about now to rebuild, right, your whole personality based on those axioms that you've accepted. You have to make the transition from head to heart. So the finality of the Aseret, so the pasuk says, "Ulevavo yavin v'shav v'rafalo." Right? The heart understands, and then you do tshuva. Right? That tshuva results, when it's put into the heart. And that's why the finality of the Aseret Tshuva, which is the big day of tshuva. Tshuva is the mitzvah sayom, is Yom Kippur. Right? That's the day of the heart. Right? And the whole 9 days in between is the transition. Right? To try to, after you set your head straight, to put it in the heart. And then if we're Zocha, on that day we get Lucha Shnias. It's not the same like the first ones. And then we're back on track for Sukkot. We've set the track, as the damage that came in between Shavuos and Sukkot has been undone, right? And then we're back on track for Sukkot, even though it's, we still have Hoshana Rabbah, right? But that's why Rosh Hashanah made a comeback, because originally Shavuos was supposed to settle the whole issue. But Rosh Hashanah, the original Rosh Hashanah was conditional on Shavuos, right? All right? Blew it, right? So Rosh Hashanah makes a comeback, right? Right. So, and that's why it comes back to life, and on Rosh Hashanah we have to make up for what went wrong after Shavuos. Right? We were not fully submitting our das to das of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So on Rosh Hashanah we are re-makabel his din and his malchus as absolute. Right? And and that the process of coming back to the second luchas, rebuilding the heart. So it's all avodas hapnim, and then we're back on track for Sukkot, right? And that's Moshe has to help us. That this is the battle that we are up against now, here, 2017. The next world war, that's right. It's going to be a war of ideology. The whole world is going to be divided up in two teams, left and right. Take a look. It's what's ripping up America. It's what's ripping up Europe. It's going to be a war of ideas. It's not going to be like the first two world wars, that every country had its own self-interest, just like a certain number of countries all had these issues at the same time. It's not going to be about, it's a war of ideas. The right now, the war that we have right now, right, domestically, within America, it's a war of ideas. It's a Kulturkampf, as we say in German. It's all a cultural war. Right? And there's the baloney ideas of the right and the baloney ideas of the left, right? Two forms of baloney, right, against each other, right? That aside from the bias that, but it's not just the bias that, the heart is crooked. There's the very basic axioms that either side of the political spectrum are also wrong. Right? In terms like, artificial terms like social justice, identity politics. The ideas, shelo hayu v'lo nivru, contrived. Right? That's not just an issue of how you handle with it, how Congress, and that's what the courts now are struggling with, right? And the legislature is struggling with, how to handle with the ideas, which there's plenty of bias there and plenty of corruption there, but the actual ideas that they have to handle with and juggle are false also. Right? And the whole world is being whipped up, over bathroom politics, who can use what bathroom, the whole world. It's amazing. It's Mavil al Orion. It's Mavil al Orion. It's what's ripping up Europe. It's ripping up America, and in Israel also. It's everywhere. Shem Yirachem, this writes and trans this up. It's crazy. Right? So we've, but it means that we're also finally facing off with the Ra directly, because that's where the Yetzer Hara gets us. He plays with our mind. He plays with our mind, and that's why the actions go awry. At least we can at least take solace that we're at the end. We're facing off with him head to head. Literally, head to head. It's a battle of head and heart. Shem Yizakenu will do tshuva shleima, clean up our heads and clean up our heart, and stay away from the art scrolls because they don't help. We need the academic rigor to straighten ourselves out, right? And Hashem Yazor will do tshuva shleima and see Mashiach Tzidkenu b'meher b'yameinu.
Thank you so much.